Hello everyone, welcome to GSTZen E-Invoice learning series. In today's discussion, we are going to look at the applicability of E-Invoice in various situations, various transaction types, various customers, in various dimensions, the applicability of E-Invoice. To begin with, this E-Invoice applicability has started based on the turnover of the SSCs, and SSCs are categorized into different categories. To start with, SSCs whose aggregate turnover is more than 500 crores, they are applicable for E-Invoice from 1st October 2020. Central Tax Notification number 61/2020 had made this applicability. The next category of taxpayers where E-Invoice is required is those taxpayers whose turnover is between 100 crores to 500 crores. And they have to go live on 1st Jan 2021 by virtue of notification 88/2020. The next category of E-Invoice, though not notified yet, but it is proposed to be implemented from 1st April 2021, is for those taxpayers whose aggregate turnover is more than 5 crores. Now, what is this aggregate turnover? Is this aggregate turnover of the current financial year is what I have to look at it? The answer is no. The aggregate turnover which we have to look at is any of the preceding financial years. Yes, you are right. Notification number 70/2020 said the turnover in any of the preceding financial year means financial year starting from 2017-18. So the GST regime in any of the periods, if the turnover is exceeding the threshold specified limits, then the E-Invoice is applicable to them. So the next thing comes is, what does this aggregate turnover comprise of? How do I compute aggregate turnover? 2 subsection 6 of the CGST Act deals with aggregate turnover, which says on an inclusive basis, all taxable supplies, exempt supplies, non-taxable supplies, including export of goods, services, including the interested supplies of persons having same PAN. So the turnover, aggregate turnover has to be looked at PAN level. It has to be looked at PAN level, and it would also include supplies without consideration, which is defined under Schedule 1. However, while the turnover is being calculated, the exclusions are given to the taxes which have been collected, the taxes including CGST, SGST, IGST, and cess. These taxes have to be excluded for computation of aggregate turnover. So the important point one needs to understand is how do one need to check the turnover E-Invoice applicability year on year. This E-Invoicing turnover has to be checked year on year, unnecessary. Once you are in E-Invoicing, then E-Invoice is applicable to you. It's not necessary that you go every year and check and say, is it applicable to you or not? Once it is applicable eternally. The next point for consideration is, if E-Invoice is applicable, then should I do E-Invoicing for all the transactions? Answer is no. The transactions which are covered for E-Invoice are listed here in the green color. What you are seeing in the red color are not applicable. So the tax invoice, credit note, and debit note under section 34, or the tax invoice issued under section 31 is a document covered for E-Invoice. Now, not necessary, again, it is issued, all the documents that are issued to a B2B, then E-Invoice is applicable. If a tax invoice is issued to a B2C, then E-Invoice is not applicable. Likewise, a bill of supply is not covered under E-Invoice, whether bill of supply is issued for an exempted supply. So whether you are making an exempted supply transaction to a registered person or an unregistered person, E-Invoice is not applicable. So likewise, delivery challan, ISD invoice, E-Invoice is not applicable. Any procurement made from unregistered persons and you are making a self-tax invoice, then E-Invoice is not applicable. If one has to understand on a broader thumb rule, whatever the invoice-wise reporting is done in GST R1 other than B2C lots, all line item reportings of GSTR1 are covered for e-invoice. A consolidated data entry is done in Table 7, B2C supplies, and Table 8, exempt nil rated supplies. For those transactions, e-invoice is not applicable. So when we talk about credit notes and debit notes, there is a question that always comes: is this financial debit note and credit note? What is a financial debit note and a credit note? Is those transactions where the GST impact is not there. So I'm issuing a credit note or accounting credit note and a debit note without GST. Should these transactions be covered for e-invoice? Answer is no. A financial credit note or a debit note without GST is not required to be reported in e-invoice. Only those credit notes and debit notes which are covered under Section 34 of the Act needs to be reported under e-invoice. The next point one needs to understand is, if there is a supply between one GSTN to another GSTN under the same PAN, those supplies, would it require e-invoice? If there is a transaction between one GSTN to another GSTN, even though there is no consideration, it is deemed as a supply under Schedule 1. So e-invoice is applicable to such distinct persons having same GSTINs under the same PAN. Now there is no exception. Please note, within the GSTN, from one branch to another branch, when there is a movement under a bill of supply or delivery challan or any document without the supply, then e-invoice is not applicable. The last of the point for discussion is high C sales. A Schedule 3 transaction where a high C sales from a bonded warehouse or any of these transactions, for these type of transactions, is e-invoice applicable? Answer is no. These activities are neither supply of goods nor supply of services as per Schedule 3. Hence, e-invoice is not applicable to these type of transactions. So I'm sure you got a clarity on applicability of e-invoice for what type of customers, what type of transactions, so that you are clear in complying with the provisions of the law. If you have any further doubt, please get in touch with us on www.gst.in, or you can write to us at support@gstzen.in. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you.